Good afternoon, everybody. Michael Lazaroff here. We are having a terrific day today. We're going to have a webinar about the Jazz Cruise 26. We have the host with us. We have some other folks that are going to join us. And the purpose of this is to share just some information about the cruise. We're going to let the guys talk about how they produce the cruise and how they pick the shows and things like that. And then if you have questions, you're going to write them up in the Q&A section. And when we're done with our stars, because we pay them by the minute, they charge by the minute. So as soon as they are done, I will then, and I don't charge at all, I will answer all of your questions about the Jazz Cruise 26. I know I'm really excited. It's fantastic lineup. We have a real nice mixture of old guards and new people. But I'd like to take this opportunity to bring on our host, Emmet Cohen, who has now gone from being a student performer on the cruise to being a performer on the cruise to being a co-host on the cruise to being the host of the cruise. The next level would be owner of the cruise, and I will assure you that has not going to happen in any time soon. Emmett, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Michael. Nice to see you. Sorry you rejected my offer to buy the whole cruise line.
Well,
give it a couple more decades.
I didn't have change for a 10, so I was unable to make that happen.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool to be here and also to reflect on that journey, coming on as a student group, playing at the poolside, playing with the guests. I really got a chance to integrate into the community from an early age. And I remember the second year I came back and you asked me to accompany the New York Voices. That was a wonderful experience for me at that time too. And I just had so many I remember Gary Burton coming up to me after one of those gigs, and he said, you sound okay, but you don't have your own sound. Keep working on it, kid. Hanging out with Benny Golson and Buster Williams and the Heath brothers and Roy Haynes. And there's just been so many memories. I came out another year and played with Jimmy Cobb and his trio.
Yep.
And, I said, Mr. Cobb, what would you like to play? This is your trio. He said, anything you want, baby, anything you want. I said, really, you have no tunes that you want to play? And he was just sitting at the casino, nickel after quarter after quarter after quarter, would barely look over. I said, well, Mr. Cobb, is there anything you wouldn't like to play? And he looks over and he says, work song. I never want to play work song again. We had to play that 2 times a night with Nat Adderley. So I said, okay, no work song. So it was cool to have some of those experiences and come into more of a creative and leadership role alongside Shelley Berg and Eric Marienthal and you, of course, and your wonderful team. And to really get a chance to know everyone on the cruise. I can't walk down the hallway without seeing an old friend. And that's a really, really nice feeling.
I've admired watching your career, watching somebody who, besides having gigantic talent, somebody who takes their career very seriously, cares about the people listening, cares about the people that he plays with. You have been incredibly respectful to the older, the heritage players. I truly admire that, and everything about the way that you've handled things is absolutely terrific, which is the reason why I'm making you the host. Just makes all the sense in the world, and we are very proud and very happy to have you as part of our team.
Thanks so much. Feels great.
We're going to bring on the person that Emmet works with most is our music director, Eric Marienthal. I'm going to bring him on now, and I'm going to let those two guys talk about how we do this, how we pick lineups, how we pick programming. And the one thing which I know they will tell you is it's a long process. I know that one of the things that these guys are really good at is making it look easy, but it's not. So, Eric, how are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it really is an amazing journey putting this together and watching it all, uh, watching it all come together. It is, and I know the guests who come on the cruise really experience this too. But so often when we're playing, um, and Emmett will attest to this. If you're playing a festival or a club or whatever, you get into town and you do your sound check and you do the gig and you race back to the hotel and you race back to the airport, and there's very little camaraderie, and you're just kind of worried. When you're on the cruise, you're there. It's like being on the road for a week without ever having to leave your hotel. It's beautiful. And so, and because of that, the musicians are more relaxed. We get to talk to so many of the people who enjoy the music so much and have helped us as musicians. And we get to hang with each other, and that's a fun thing too. Isn't that right, Emmett?
You're you're the only one on the cruise who doesn't get to relax, Eric. Everyone else is relaxed. Everyone else feels great, and you look like you're trying to find your gate at the airport. No, yeah, I don't think anyone works harder than you, and it's been really cool to see that. I tend to think of the process. There's like a micro process, and then there's a macro process. So like in the big picture, it's like how do we conceive the lineup so that the jazz cruise fits in with the lineup of Journey of Jazz, and maybe people could sail back to back and see some of their favorite artists twice, but then be experiencing new artists. And the same thing to go with the Bodie cruise. And I know there's some people who do all of them, and now we have McBride's World. And so, there's really something to be said for keeping it fresh and giving each cruise its own feeling and its own vibration. Then
Oh yeah,
within the cruise,
yeah,
it's about keeping the legacy acts, keeping the people who give the cruise its flavor. I know two of those guys are on the call right now, Wycliff Gordon and Ken Peplowski, and and we also have Jeff Hamilton and John Clayton and Catherine Russell and Kurt Elling, and there's a certain core people who give the cruise its real flavor. And then it's also about how do we complement those people and make the age of the musicians a little bit younger, and try to find some new talent, or we haven't had that person before, or this person would be great on the cruise, but I don't think most of the people would understand their music, but we should try to push them anyway. And
yeah.
and then we try to hire a big act, and Michael says, we don't have the budget for that. No, oftentimes we do, but Michael's like, why are you spending all our money on this one act? And so he's like, well, maybe we'll go younger. So there's a lot of considerations to be made, and then also you do a tremendous job. Then once all the musicians are picked, to then put the musicians together to bring the best out of all of them, and to make the shows really unique and special, and the reason why people come on the cruise.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
let's bring on, I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead. Go ahead, Eric.
I
My
was just going
fault.
to say it's fun to work with you and Michael, and with everybody, really just brainstorm with ideas. Like, on this cruise we have, three of the world's greatest jazz clarinet players, Ken Peplowski and Paquito and Emmet Cohen, and they're doing a three clarinet show together, which is, where else are you going to see something like that? We're also this year going to doing a piano duets set on the main stage, where you have two pianos, crook to crook, and we have, I mean, just like yourself, there are so many great piano players on this cruise, so we're having this great duet show, and just getting to do all these unique kinds of shows is one of the hallmarks of the cruise, and one of the things that makes it so much fun.
I'd like to bring on Wycliff Gordon. Wycliff, for those who do not know, this is an interesting, a fun fact. Wycliff Gordon has appeared on our cruises, not just the jazz cruise, all of our cruises, more than any other musician in the world. And we just love having him and doing the gospel shows and every other aspect. Wycliff, how are you?
I need to share his camera and his audio.
Wycliff, you guys share your audio.
Okay, here I
There he
come.
goes.
Am I here? Okay, sorry.
You're good.
Uh-oh, I look distorted. I hope I don't look like to you guys what I look like on my camera.
You do.
No,
Well, anyway,
no.
good to be here. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Emmett. Thank you, Eric Marienthal. I'm here in Vail, Colorado, doing a workshop that we do every year. We have a lot of cruise folks that we normally see cruising with us on the jazz cruise. Seen some of them on the smooth jazz cruise time that I've done that, and everything that's coming up. I'll just say, yeah, Eric, you man, what you all have to do this. I do not, I'm glad to be a host and to do what it is that I'm doing. There's a lot that goes into this, but I'm certainly proud to have been one to be on the all of the jazz cruises. I'd never taken a cruise before, and it's grown into something somewhat of a big family. The family has grown larger since the beginning, but the folks that we interact with, the musicians, and I feel like sometimes on this cruise that everyone in some way, shape, or form, they are musicians or they were musicians in another life. And so it's a great marriage of people that come together. And, I love it. I love every minute of it. It's an opportunity to get away from land stuff. I would say another word that begins with S, but it's an opportunity to just get away from that. And like Eric said earlier, the furthest gig is 5 minutes away from one end of the ship to the other. And, so I love every minute of it. I love every aspect of it. And particularly, doing the gospel show, that music was really close to me. Growing up, my father studied classical music, but he played in church. So that was the first live music that I heard. And on the first or the second cruise that I did, I think Ken Peplowski was one of the first guys to tell me about it. He had the Count Basie Orchestra and Marlena Shaw was singing. He said, they have a gospel show. I want to go and check that out. And I said, hey, I would love to play on the gospel show if it's just a solo, because that music is so close to me. And once asked to be the host, I said, yeah, sure, I would love to do it. So anyway, it's one of the highlights for me, hosting a cigar night. I don't smoke cigars as much as I used to, but I still go and I hang with the fellas. So anyway, thanks for having me.
You got it. Okay, one more to add to this group. Ken Peplowski has been there from the beginning. He's even been on some of the cruises that we haven't even invited him. He just shows up, and then we figure out what to do with him. Now, he's the greatest. He's the host. He's been the host of the welcome show. This year, he's going to host the Jazz Cruise Hall of Fame show. We're going to be honoring Chucho Valdez and Paquito Rivera, and so we just thought that Ken would be the perfect person to host that. Ken, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. Glad to be a part of this, and I'm in New York preparing for my week at Birdland. I'm doing a Bird with Strings program, which I do every year. And guess who's guesting with me? Mr. Eric Marienthal. So
We look forward to that.
That's going to be so much fun. But listen, I'm so honored to be a part of the cruise every year, and I enjoy putting together whatever special programs you throw my way. And also, I have to say, in many ways, it's like a vacation for us, and the best kind of vacation, because in addition to the ports of call, we get to hear all this great music in a week. And I do try, actually, in the course of a week to hear every band or single musician that I never heard before. So it's a real special treat. And I have discovered a lots of great musicians this way, and have hired them since, and and it's a real great camaraderie on the ship, and just a fun feeling on and off the bandstand. The fans are very respectful, very nice. They are very knowledgeable. Couldn't ask for a better experience, really.
That's great. Yeah, I sort of grew up in this business doing this. This was the first full ship charter that we did back in 2001. For those who are on the call who are unfamiliar with the story, there was a jazz cruise that was on the SS Norway for many years in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. It was never a full ship charter. It was half the ship, but that's a really large ship. So there were about 1,000 passengers. But if it's not a full ship charter and it's only half, you're sharing the boat with another group, or with just a whole bunch of people. They may not even be a group. And so you had most of the shows were at odd hours. You couldn't have jazz on the public music opportunities. It just wasn't terrific. And I won't tell the story the way that I usually tell the story. I'm going to cut to the chase. When they canceled that cruise, NCL, Norwegian Cruise Line, canceled that cruise, my mother, who was 70 years old at the time, high school education, probably dyslexic, told everybody that she was going to be the first person in the world to charter a whole ship for a music cruise. And I remember talking to her at the time, and then she told me what a ship cost. And then she looked me right in the eye and said, you can't take it with you. And I looked her in the eye and said, yeah, but you can leave some of it behind. So I got involved in just to help, and one thing led to another. We've now done over 100 full ship charters since 2001, and it really is fun. But there's always something special about the jazz cruise. One last story about jazz cruise for those who do not know. My mother's first cruise, first time, was 5 weeks or 6 weeks after 9/11. But it still worked. Everybody showed up. It was really kind of cool. So why don't you guys talk about how you put together shows that are not set performing groups, but the way that you pick people from various groups, all stars, and then you kind of put things together. And Ken, if you could share how you theme the opening show and things like that.
Well, yeah, it's a fun challenge every year. This year, the opening show is a little different, and maybe you can get to that, Michael, later. But yeah, I try to come up with a theme that's both, I would say, commercially interesting. In other words, it's got kind of a hook to it, but it also has something special that all the jazz fans will relate to, whether it's a song, a composer, or one of the iconic jazz performers that everyone would know. Then the next step and the next problem, in fact, is putting together the group of musicians. And so that's, I have to say, and I think I've had this discussion with Emmet, Eric, and probably Wycliff too. I'll clean this up for the webinar. I have what I like to refer to as a no jerks policy. So, it's so much easier to work with people that are nice and play great. And there's a lot of musicians out there that have both things. So you don't need one person on the bandstand can bring the whole thing down. And that, and those shows, the theme shows and the all-star sets, they're tough because you've got a finite amount of time. You've got to play great music. For everybody expects a great set every single time, and they get them on the cruise. So you've got to get the right components, the right chemistry. Once you pick the no jerks, let's say, then it's, thinking about the right people for whatever the theme is, if there is a theme. And frankly, nowadays too, I try to have integrated bands in uh, every way possible. Because it's more and more important to show people that jazz comes from everywhere, and it's like a metal that the components come from all over the world, but it was forged in the United States. So that's the way we put together the programs too.
Yeah, one of the fun things about putting this together, and I think one of the really unique things, both for the musicians and the guests, is, these unique groupings of musicians, like you mentioned. The way I like to put it together, I'll have maybe an idea as what might work as far as a specialty show or an all-star set, and I'll look to a particular player and I'll write them and I'll say, hey, are there any, here are the players that are on the ship. Are there some players that you haven't had a chance to work with, or that you do work with? Maybe they're in your band. And invariably they'll say, oh man, I've never gotten to work with Emmet Cohen, or I've never gotten to work with Ken or Wycliff, or all the different, all the different players, Jeff Hamilton or whoever. And suddenly, so I'll reach out to that person. They'll say, oh man, that'd be great. And then we put a show together. And rather than just have me assign, okay, you guys are playing together and you guys are playing together, this way it's something that the musicians are really excited about. And it works every single time. And there's never been a single instance where somebody says, oh, I didn't like that show, or that combination really didn't work, or, it's always just so much fun. But I think the guests really benefit from the fact that there are so many musicians, and the camaraderie that happens between us.
Yeah, and also there's just so many um, musicians on every instrument together. I think one of my favorite things to see is all the trumpet players together. And there's such a big lineage of trumpet players kind of competing with each other for range and register and power and ideas and all that kind of stuff. You think about jazz at the Philharmonic, and then you go on the cruise and you can see like 10 of the world's greatest trumpet players all take a solo on the same tune in succession, and not only hear them but like watch the other trumpet players watching their peers and see how they're liking it or not liking it or pretending to like it. And there's so much in there that's just so interesting. And one of the things that I'd love to do this year, and we've been talking about it, is to film some of the sets that we have on the Jazz Cruise and kind of like sample what the magic is to the world. And obviously, we do a lot of filming jazz shows here from this apartment. Actually, we have Kurt Elling coming tonight, and I think he'll arrive in just 2 hours to rehearse some things, and we'll go live from the apartment. And I think people just love to see that and kind of try to make the Jazz Cruise a little more of an international. It's already on international waters, but so people all over the world can see what goes on there and see what they're missing out on, really. Because there's no replacement for that live feeling, and there's no replacement for going up to your heroes at the buffet and saying, "Hey, that was a great set. What were you thinking when you played this tune?" And even we do that. I see Chucho Valdez having a slice of pizza. I might sit down and just say hello. And those have been some of my favorite moments. I thought maybe we could go just like around in a little round robin and all share some of our favorite cruise moments, or something that stood out, that's just like, wow, that was a real Jazz Cruise moment. And I shared a few up front, and maybe we can go, start with Eric and just see, like, is there a moment that sticks out to you, like this wouldn't have happened anywhere else in the world, like that's cool.
Well, I mentioned the clarinet show that we're doing this time. That stemmed from one that we did a couple of years ago. Ken, what was it? Ken and Annette and Eddie Daniels, right? And Paquito, all
Yeah.
the four of you, I believe. And And I just remember watching that show and just being so, you know, here are my four favorite clarinet players in the world, all on stage doing the show together and having so much fun together because it's just such a unique thing. Of all, I mean, there hasn't been a bad show on the cruises. It's just so amazing. But you know, to pick, it's hard to pick one, but that was one that I think of often.
The one that I think of includes Wycliff. It was a pickup band. It was Shelley Berg was on piano. I forgot who was on drums, but I know everybody else. It was Arturo Sandoval, Wycliffe Gordon, and Marcus Miller. And I was backstage with them before they went on, and they're calling out tunes to play and stuff like that. And Arturo was kind of complaining. He said that he didn't play with an electric bass player ever, so he didn't like that. And so then they started, and Marcus did his thing, and all of a sudden Arturo was ready to go, and he did his thing. And then Wycliff, I mean, it was, let me show you what I can do kind of thing. And the interesting part is, I think they named about 5 or 6 songs prior to going on stage, and they played one of them. Because after that, guys were just jumping in, playing tunes to see if somebody else could actually play it with them. It was very interesting and very cool.
What about you, Wycliffe? Still there?
Where's my man?
Well,
Can you
I'll
hear
show-
me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Now we
Yeah, I'm
can.
here. Oh, wow. Man, this is great. That's a hard question to answer, but one that immediately comes to mind when I first started. And, you know, you had some of the great jazz masters on the cruise, and there have been many, and there still are. But I particularly remember one time Arville Shaw was on the cruise. I'm a big, heavily influenced by Louis Armstrong and all the musicians that played with him, as I'm sure we all are directly or indirectly. But I got a chance to sit with Arville Shaw and his friend at that time, and he was talking about he was working with some guys from Detroit, and we were like on the Lido deck. I think we still on the Holland America ship, and he said he talked about how Louis Armstrong heard about him, and I won't go through the story, but how he started working with Louis Armstrong and how, you know, the stories behind Hello Dolly and all of those things. And I was like, oh man, this is great. I was just having a wonderful time. But then he was at a show that we were doing. I don't know if it was one of the theme shows, but someone asked if he could come up and play. I'm like, are you kidding? Well, he didn't play, but he came up, he sat on a stool next to me, and he sang On the Sunny Side of the Street. And I think that was the closest I ever came to being with someone that, you know, lived and played with Pops. And I said, it's a moment I never forgot. And it was great to have that moment happen because, you know, as happens on the cruise, we have times and great times, and some of our greats, they have passed on. And it was just a few months after that. And I think someone, I don't know if it's Jay Hart or someone, they taped that for me. And I was like, man, this is a moment I'll never forget. And that was early on. And so there are so many, but I won't try to name all of them, but that was one of the ones that was just completely unforgettable. And then getting the opportunity to be the host of the gospel show. I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, but knowing that on the cruise, we have people of all faiths, all religions, beliefs, that probably atheists on the ship. It's like, how can we put together a show that will welcome everyone? And that is what I like about the cruise, whether it's Emmet's doing it, whether it's, when Ken calls, that thing that Ken says is golden, unspoken rule. When you can deal with people that are just going to be cool, just going to show up, and it's hard to put that together. Who's going to come here and going to make what we're doing an enjoyable experience for everyone. And that is so important. And I think that these guys try to take that into consideration when they're selecting musicians for the cruise, when they're selecting folks for the ensemble. And I know that because I worked with Ken many years, in the early 90s. And I'm appreciative of that I get that feeling throughout on the cruise. Every now and then we get some passengers that can be a little challenging, but for the most part, they're great. And where else are you going to find this level of music all in one place? We're a captive audience, and it's just like, so
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Could I give a couple quick ones?
Yeah, come on, Ken.
I'll give you a few little snapshots. One is the Heath brothers just holding court on the Lido deck and roasting anybody who came within, I would say, 5 feet of them, to the point where if they'd already experienced that once, they'd make a wide berth around that table. It's just hilarious. They were funny guys, and just great. Another early on, a Hall of Fame show. The Hall of Fame gave Frankie Manning the award. And Frankie Manning, for people that may not know, was the leader of the world famous Lindy Hoppers. He's on film. There's a very famous clip of him and a female dancer just going nuts on screen. And so Frankie Manning gets the award. He's accompanied by his son. He looked very frail. He was using crutches. And guess what? He got up and did a dance on stage, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. So it's those kind of things. A lot of unprepared, unscripted moments like that. I remember personally, Phil Woods gave a great set, and this was maybe the last year of his life. He was using oxygen tanks on stage, and so he'd finished his set. Everybody packed, and he's sitting there by himself. And I just walked up to him, and we had a really, really warm, like hour-long conversation. Told each other we loved each other, and that's the last time I saw him. And that was it was a beautiful, for me, last remembrance of Phil Woods, because he meant a lot to me too. I took some lessons from him earlier, but it goes on and on. There's all kinds of one-off memories that would never have happened anywhere else but on the cruise.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorites was we had the big band, and we had a special guest, Johnny Mandel. And Johnny Mandel walked onto the stage,
Oh yeah.
and the entire big band stood up and applauded, every single person. To me, that was amazing. That was just, that was so
Well,
cool.
Michael, I do have a story about that, because those were I booked the cruise for a few years, and I hired Johnny. So he was very frail, and so he said, I've got the big band book. I don't know how I can transport that. I told him, I'll act as your librarian. Take the music, I'll pass it out on stage, make sure it's collected again. I made sure he had breakfast every day, lunch, took him and his wife. If you remember, I did a 2-hour interview with him that year, and he just great, So at the end of the week, I'm thinking to myself, gee, I'm really bonding with Johnny Mandel. And I brought a book that he written on arranging. So I asked him to sign it. So he signs the book. I go back to my room to see the heartfelt message, and it said, "To Ken, thanks for the job." Love Johnny. And, I love him. I know he didn't mean that as he was a one-off person, I would say, a little quirky, and the most beautiful arranger and composer of all time. And you're right, Michael, to stand in front of the band who wrote The Shadow of Your Smile and Emily and be playing his arrangements of them, it was just chilling.
It was.
Yeah.
So
I have,
let me finish what,
one to add
Warren,
if you
go ahead, go,
have time.
go.
I got a chance to play with David Sanborn on one of the shows, and I guess Michael, you went to bat for me. You said you should really have this guy Emmett play with you, and he's like, "No, I want my guy." He said, "No, no, trust me." And so he gave me a shot, and I got a chance to go to his house before we sailed and rehearse and get to meet him and spend time with him and really just internalize this concept and got a chance to do it on the cruise. We had a great show that evening, and it was really special for me. And then it forged this relationship where he asked me to go on the road and do some tour dates and stuff. And so we spent a year in close contact. So a lot of my initial relationships were formed on the boat. And yeah, there was another one where we were doing the keyboard capers where everyone, all the pianists come out at the same time at the end. And Dick Hyman, he kind of just pushed everyone aside and he sat down on the organ. There was like a little organ set up, and he just kind of just went to town on the organ. And all the piano players were just like showing their respect to Dick Hyman. And it was just such a magical moment. He must have been 90 years old. And just, it was just a real show of reverence for someone who just changed the way the piano's played and just was just all about the music. And so there's so many moments like that.
Yeah,
And
same for me with what I got to know David Sanborn on the jazz cruise. That one year he was on the jazz cruise. Somebody put a show together for he and I to play, and it was later in the week. And during the entire week, he called me and said, "Oh man, come on by, let's play some tunes." And so we were in his cabin, and I was trying to play very quietly, and he was, we I'm not so sure what the people next door to us thought. Maybe they felt like they were getting a free glimpse into the show coming up at the end of the week, but we must have tried literally 100 different tunes and yeah, same thing. It forged my eventual great friendship with
He was a
him. And
particular guy.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
what that's funny that you bring him up, and God rest his soul. But right before he came on the jazz cruise, I was with you guys on the smooth jazz cruise, and I was just gonna
Yep.
go. I said I just want to go and check it out. And Michael said, "Well, yeah, you're going. We'll hook you up with a cabin. Do you want to play?" I was like, "Well, yeah, sure." And I met David, and I played with him for a few years before I got too busy to do so. But I want to say one thing about him: he was cool on and off the bandstand. We talk about the music and musicians, but one time he took us to a place. We had a gig in somewhere in South Carolina, and it was on an old plantation, and cats in the band, and he was just always conscious about his humanity. And he kind of apologized. He said he kind of apologized. We were playing in this kind of place. It's like, hey, it was a gig, but he was just so cool. You talk about the musician, but the man, I was like, I really love that cat. And those are the kind of cats that are on this webinar. And even though we don't get to say it often, Ken and I said it. We share some health things that we've been through, and it's like, we're still here, but you never know. And it's just like, even with David, I wound up playing a gig for him. Well, a gig he was scheduled to play, and someone called me, and I didn't know until I got there. I said, "Oh," and April called and said that Dave Sanborn was scheduled to be there. I said, "Oh man, wow!" I said, "Of course, I would do the gig," and of course we had another show, but I said, "Hey, let's play a couple of Sanborn tunes." I had my students to play it. So the impact of what happens on the ship, a lot of times it goes unsaid because we get together and the musicians and we play, we have a good time, we go to the bar, we drink and have a good time. But it's things like that, the common humanity that's in all of us, that I think is really what makes this work when, sometimes it can seem difficult, like in this world that we're living in. So I'm just so thankful for that. And I remember we got on a jazz cruise and we were on Holland America and the Crow's Nest. And everybody came to, see David Sanborn play. He was popular for being David Sanborn, but I mean, he could really play. And I remember the rehearsals, and he said, "We'll do Song for My Father," and start passing out lead sheets. And that's all we know that. Shelley was on the gig, and man, it was so. And Alonzo Bowden had told on these smooth jazz crews, when you talk about jazz history, you better make sure that you're accurate because they'll call you out. And after the first and second tune, Eric, you were there. David said something by George or Gershwin, and somebody said it was Ira Gershwin. And he said, and Dave just started laughing. He said, "Well, they told me about being on the jazz cruise and the small differences between smooth jazz and jazz with the passengers, but they're just great memories." So I'm going to shut up because I'll talk all day. But they were great memories.
Ooh.
Well, thank you, guys. Let me explain. Ken mentioned that the opening show is going to be a little different. A couple of months ago, we were looking at the lineup, and we saw that probably more so than I can remember, we have a large number of icons. Chucho Valdez, Monty Alexander, Paquito, Didi Bridgewater. I'm missing some more, but we have a huge number of icons, and so that's what the opening show is going to be. We're going to feature the people that have paved the way for us to be doing this. Okay, thank you guys very much. I'm going to stay on to answer some incredibly mundane questions, but it's important to our guests. Okay. This is when we talk about beverage packages and should I send my laundry to the cleaners and all this kind of stuff. And I talk about room service and things like that.
Michael, I have a complaint.
That's
Michael, my laundry's been sitting here in my apartment for 2 months. When's somebody going to pick it up?
But see, that's my role. I'm the official janitor. I'm the janitor. I make sure that everyone eats and their rooms are okay and all of that kind of stuff. Somebody has to do it, and I'm going to do it. Thank you guys so much. I will see a bunch of you guys in a couple of weeks, and I'll see everybody else soon. Thanks, guys.
To see you all.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks.
so what's the first question?
All right.
One of the questions was if this is their first cruise, they've never cruised before, and they wanted to know what type of procedure do you go through before you board the ship? What does that look like, getting ready to board the ship?
I hope you have been receiving our get ready letters. We have a series of 11 get ready letters that are going to walk you through this process. I think 3 or 4 of them have gone out yet, something like that. You can read about them if you go on the website and you look under book guests, you can see them all. But the processes are very similar. You have to have a passport. You're going to be filling out a registration form. You're going to once you get your booking number, which I don't think has been sent out yet, won't be sent out for a while, you're going to go online and you're going to confirm your reservation. The interesting part is there are some things that you do with us, and then there are some things that you do directly with the cruise line. We charter the ship, so we're in charge of all kinds of aspects of it, but there are certain elements, particularly boarding the ship and your reservation, that are done directly with the ship. The best answer that I can give you is get those letters, read them carefully, make copies, keep them, and keep referring to them. It's not hard. It's a bunch of little stuff, okay? And but we are here to help you with that. Okay.
Kind of the same tone, if somebody's new, can you explain to them how it works? How do the shows work? How often are there shows on the Jazz Cruise?
Sure. TJC, the Jazz Cruise, has over 200 hours of music. It is done festival style. There are shows going on when we are at sea or at night, there are multiple shows going on. You go into any show that you want, first come, first serve. You don't have to stay for the whole show. We call that, sampling, going back and forth. Some people come in, they see the first half of one show, but then they have their schedule to see the second half of another show. Probably about 2 weeks before the cruise, we send out the exact programming that we have, and lots of people print that out, take a pencil or a pen, figure out how they're going to spend every day. Most of the performing groups perform 3 or 4 different times. So if there's someone that you really like, you can see all of their shows, or if you want to get a sample of everybody, you can figure that out as well. But you don't purchase it. Once you're on the ship, you don't purchase anything to go to the shows, you just go. And we kind of like it that way. That is our festival style of a presentation. And it's only on the Jazz Cruise. The others have a different programming format.
We have a question about what are the destinations for the next Jazz Cruise? What are the locations?
We're going to Coco Cay and to San Juan. I will say this candidly. It's a music cruise. We've got 100 of the greatest jazz musicians in the world. We stop at ports because we have to. Very few. We have fun at the ports. We have events. Coco Cay is a beautiful private island, and that's a lot of fun. And there's all kinds of neat things to do in San Juan. But this vacation, this trip, is not a sightseeing trip. It is not about the ports of calls. It is about the music. We have events going on all the time. Top-notch musicians playing all the time.
Hey, someone has a question about if they're not sure that they'll be able to go till later in the year, say November, December, what's the best advice you have for them?
It's interesting. Let me give you the example of a cruise that we're doing in a couple of weeks, Journey of Jazz. It sails from September 12th to the 19th, okay? Goes out of the West Coast. That cruise has been sold out 5 times, meaning it's sold out, and then there's cancellations, and those cabins are then offered, and then it's sold out, and then that keeps going. If you in December or November, you will have an opportunity to purchase a cabin. Rarely do we have a cruise where once it gets sold out, they're on cancellations. I actually cannot remember any. The problem is that you may not be the only person seeking that cabin. So we go to the wait list first. So if in fact you aren't sure, I would pick a category that says join the wait list, fill out the form there, and then you're on our wait list so that when cabins do become available, you'll be contacted rather than calling the office every day. Okay.
That answered another question. Somebody said, when can we expect more rounds of hilarious banter between Ken and John Pizzarelli?
Well, they'll be on the ship. That's how they act. They'll be probably on the welcome show a little bit, but on the Hall of Fame show. They are funny together.
And then someone's asking, are there opportunities for dancing on the cruise?
My God, yes. We have the Houston Person Dance Party, and every night we're going to have Mario Vines, who's our cruise director, dancing and cocktails, okay? Every night. And that's in the Rendezvous Lounge.
Got a couple more that we can answer directly, and we're getting
That'd be great.
time.
Yeah. I hope everybody had a good time. If you have any questions, contact us, contact me. My email address is at the bottom of the Weekender every week and on Jazz Notes, which will be going out shortly. And it's michael@scecruises.com. Happy to answer any and all of your questions. And as you saw, as you heard, the Jazz Cruise is really, really a special thing. It's been, 26 years, and every cruise has been, sold out. It's a fabulous event. Thanks, guys.